All right, now we're here in the shop. You can see it's a pretty busy place. It's filled with a lot of expensive hardware, and it's here for a reason. One of the things that we can do is I've designed all of our Sportsman and even the Pro Series engines. It all starts with the block, the selection of the block, making the choices on the machining operations, the actual deck height. So what I've done is I've standardized all my deck heights for all the combinations that I use, which allows me to start blocks in process. And if you pan over, you'll see, we literally have over 100, 125 blocks here at any given time. And we're always in a process of machining. And I like to think of, I explain to my customers, if anybody's seen the Dell computer commercial, where the computer's going down the assembly line, and it's moving down, and the customer's talking, and he says, I really want to upgrade the memory. And they just pull from the shelf, plug it in. The guy says, you know what? Oh, I want the bigger screen. I want this. Stop, pull that one off, grab another one. And in essence, that's what I've always done. This conveyor belt is always started. Blocks are always in process. It's a combination of blocks that are pre-sold and then what we call an SSRE block. It's designed, it'll fit 3 or 4 different engine packages. It's really a matter of bore and notching, for certain strokes, and then wall finish for certain rings. But there's a big commonality there, and these blocks are available. So a typical customer can call. He raced Sunday, it blew up all his shit on Sunday. Now it's Monday, and he's got to be at a race by Friday. Around a dyno shop, you hear that.
Another Shafiroff motor being dynoed.
All right, so the guy calls Monday morning. He says, listen, I'm in the point series. I got to do this. I got to run, 780, and my dragster weighs this, weighs that. What do you got? This is what I can afford. He's already seen all the ads. He knows he's looking at this price range engine. He said, but what can I have? I said, so either, like we have, anywhere 8 to 12 motors done in stock. Either you'll take one of those, or the guy can say, no, I want this, I don't want Eagle Rod, I don't want this, I don't want that, but I need it by Thursday. So what we can do is we can take the order. It's Monday morning. And if the guy's in a real rush and we can fit it into the schedule, the job's done, take the deposit, the salesman writes up all the parts, goes back in here, we assign it, we select the block that's on the ground. Like I'll show you, there's blocks on the ground. All done, finished, and if they say SSRE on them, on the bottom, on that tag, like this is telling us what stage, what machining was done. We select that block, we go into the parts room, and this is really the key. You have to have inventory. What we're looking at here, this is for sold jobs, the parts are pulled, the paperwork comes from the front, everything's written up, what the customer wanted, how it's going to be built. Now this guy in a rush that blew his stuff up, we take a block, parts department, we pull all the parts. We can literally have an assembler start. They start, the blocks are fully finished machined, and when I say finished machined, they're really machined. This isn't like, rinse and wash and run a hone through them. Every block goes through a stringent criteria, and I'm going to get to that later, but let's stick with the parts for now. We pull all the parts. The guy wants this brand crank, this brand rods. So you follow me through, everything is here. All the cranks, all the Cali stuff, Eagle stuff, cylinder heads. I have what I call a rule of threes. I generally don't try to have more than 3 brands. It's too confusing. And you have your good, better, best, and sometimes it's just brand preference. But it's all available here, it's all on the shelf. So you ordered it, we have it on the shelf, the parts get pulled. The assembler can take the block, knock the cam bearings in it, that's his responsibility. take it over there. We take a crank, pull the crank. The assembler can mic the crank while it's still cold before it goes into balancing. Write down all the measurements, start doing his clearances. He can do main and rod clearances once he recorded. You know, everything has a build sheet. Every journal is recorded, every main, every rod throw. So now he can work with that. He has rings to file. He's got clearances to set. He can do all that while we're balancing the crank. So now the guy called at 9 o'clock in the morning. Now it's, 10:15. The guy can be started on the block. We can get the crank to the balancer. Typically balancing usually takes us, unless there's a lot of heavy metal involved, usually under 2 hours, and hour and a half. We're really experienced at it. And plus, I keep cranks in stock with all different cam cuts. So everything is roughed, and as I have 4 1/4 stroke cranks that I know will work well on a 2000 or 2150 bob weight. I have the same crank with a different counterweight height that'll work well from 22 to 2350, and then I have stuff that'll work, over 2450, like some super, heavy stuff. So I keep a crank, so I pick the right crank. So instead of it being a 5-hour, disaster on the balancing, it goes smooth because it's already, in a sense, roughed in because I designed the counterweight height. Again, fits with all my combination, fits with my piston and my rod length, and it all works. That crank goes out there, like I said, it's mic'd, he's already working on the clearances. It gets balanced by 11:30, crank's balanced, polished, goes in the tank, it's cleaned. Now it rolls out. Meanwhile, the assembler's got the cam bearings in the motor. He's got the rods out of the box, broken apart. We electric pencil the number. They've all been sized. He's checked all the clearances because he's mic'd, we use all sun and fixtures, dial bore gauge. Every rod bearing clearance, every main is set with a sun and gauge, but it's all based on, we zero it on what the crank dimension is. That's how we do it. We mic the crank, write those numbers down, and that's set in the sun and holder, and the gauge is set to 0, and we read out the clearance. So all that's adjusted. We have thousands of bearings here. Every we have, pick one, you can select fit bearings. We have every different size, plus bearing to bearing, there's slight differences. So we just play with the bearings, get them into the range that I've, determined for that style of engine. The assembler's ready, he gets the crank. They go to lunch at 1. By 1 o'clock, he's got the crank in the motor, set the thrust, everything's going. You can start putting the rods on the pistons. Put one rod and piston in quick, just double check the deck before we assemble everything so you don't wind up disassembling it. Everything is checked. If it's a, PV is done when the heads are assembled. Like if you look down, all heads get assembled here. You select the springs, retainers, the heights. When the assembly guy puts the heads together, he always leaves 2 springs off and is set with a checker spring. So when it goes into the assembly room, now the builder has the 2 checker springs. He can do a quick piston to valve, he can do location, just mark it, spin it. In other words, what I'm saying is everything that people think that only a little hands-on little engine shop, with their buddy who I call Harry, that only Harry, touches everything, does everything, and they think a big shop like this, you don't get the same precision or quality. It's not true at all. We just do it in a more organized manner. But everything is still checked. That build sheet, every bearing clearances, from cam thrust, crank thrust, piston to valve, spring height, everything is absolutely set, recorded, permanent record of it. But it's done in a way, so now, right after lunch, those heads are in the room. The guy had the rings filed, he puts them on the pistons. After we check that one piston and rod and everything's double, boom, all the other pistons go on, it gets put together. The shorts together, cams in, degree the cam, the head goes on, piston, all the cams degree, piston the valve, everything's good, bang, front cover, heads can get final assembled, all the parts are pulled, lifters, push rods. I keep 1,500 push rods here, literally, 1,500 push rods. Every length, every day, I don't have to order. I go to the shelf, I pull it. Because now it's 3 o'clock and he's 30 and he's up to push rod length. He's got to have, this, and they vary a little bit, not a ton, but that's why we have every length, every 50 thousandths I keep. He's got the push rods, has the rocker arms, the thing. it intake manifold. Right after he bolts the head on, we trial fit the intake. So while we're putting the valve train on, sometimes intakes need to be machined, China rail, just needs a little clearance, or if there's any issue with lining the holes up for the bolts, all that is checked. So now while the assembler is putting the cylinder heads on, if we have to address any issue on the intake manifold, it's machined while he's bolting the heads on. Now it's 4:30. Heads are on, valve train's on, manifold's ready to go. If the holes had to be elongated or if we had to mill the end rail to get a little more clearance, it's all done. Final wash, rolls back in, assembler puts it on. Before he punches out at 6 o'clock, that motor's sitting on a stand with the brand crank, the brand rod, the compression ratio he wanted, the cam he wanted, the brand of cylinder head he wanted, the intake he wanted, the valve train he wanted, the lifter he wanted, the style of push rod that he wanted, the oil pan that he wanted, the oil pump that he wanted, the balancer that he wanted. Pick from my menu. It's all there. And that guy, Tuesday morning, that thing can go up on a dyno, comes off the dyno by lunchtime, the filter's cut open, inspected for debris, and then we screw a brand new filter, all the oil's drained, every cylinder, we leak check, compression check, every engine. It's all recorded and kept, goes into shipping. And I'll show you that in the shipping department. We have, crates pre-made for us. It's everything that used to take so much time in an engine shop just falls into simplicity. And not only is it quicker, it's better, and it's less expensive. It's a win-win. It's just what technology's done for everything in this country, and we take advantage of it. And you have to. We're in New York. My electric bill would choke a horse. It would stagger what a guy in Tennessee or Ohio or something pays between that and what you have to pay for for good health. But that's what it takes, and you have to be a little quicker and take advantage of technology to work for you. So now that this custom motor's here, it leaves Tuesday afternoon. I ship, I don't know, 500,000 pounds of freight a year in that neighborhood. I have, FedEx, Yellow Freight. They come in here begging. They bring, think cops eat donuts. You should come around here. Every shipping company in the world comes here twice a week begging for business. They want our business. We get special service. We take advantage of it. We have free freight in the 48 states. But not only is it free, it's fast. Because they know if they want my business, they got to deliver. So we get guaranteed delivery date, and we don't have to pay extra for it, which normally a small shipper you'd have to. So, and we know it, we can track it, we can call the customer, says your stuff's here, you can have it, you ordered it Monday morning, we shipped it Tuesday. I said, if you were in California, I'd have it there Friday, because we have freight service from New York is actually one of the few advantages of being in New York, is the ability to ship. Everything leaves from New York. If you're going to the West Coast, you're going overseas, everything leaves out of New York. Every night gets picked up here in the afternoon. It's on a plane that night, or a train, or on a truck out of town, and it goes. So it really lets us have a custom engine delivered to the guy, just within a matter of days. Sometimes guys, they just love to, they'll drive in, they'll watch it run on a dyno, we'll do our checks on the engine, they'll run up to the dyno, have lunch, we'll have it all ready for them, loaded in the back of the pickup, and it's see ya. And they're on their way home. And that night they're bolting it in. And it's kind of amazing, but it takes the kind of inventory, it takes the kind of crew that we have, the machining, and everything is balanced. We have just enough machinery, we have just enough inventory, enough manpower to control it and maintain the inventory levels. We have the assemblers. Everybody here, it's like an old man's club. It's most of these guys I know over 30 years, and very few people ever leave here. Once or twice I've asked people to leave, but usually, people just stay here. I have second generation workers working here, and this is all what we love to do, and it all shows in the quality of the work and how we take care of people, and that's what I do for a living.